What is the worst case of psycho overprotective parenting that you've ever seen? I went to high school with a guy whose parents had a camera installed in his room that fed into a TV screen in their bedroom. When he told me, I assumed it was one of those things they used when he was a baby then disabled when he was older. Nope. According to him, they still kept it on 24/7, even though he was like 17 years old. I'd never been so creeped out. My ex's mom screamed in my face legit inches from my face that I was stealing her son away when he bought his house. It was his decision to buy a house, and he had wanted me to live with him. The location of the house, you ask? Directly across the street from where his parents live. I had an ex-boyfriend from high school whose parents were very strict about him dating. So we always had group dates. We weren't allowed to be alone. We went over to his house for a movie night and everyone all of a sudden left, but it was super late and my dad's place was across town. So I called for him to pick me up, but it was going to take 45 minutes to get there. His parents made me wait outside on the porch alone in November, in Canada. It was cold. He wasn't allowed to wait outside with me. They didn't even let me wait in the foyer with them supervising. My former roommate's parents were extremely protective of my roommate. Once I woke up to 3 calls and 4 texts from her mom asking if my roommate was in the room. I replied back yes. Later that day my roommate explained to me that there was a girl murdered in North Carolina that fit her description and her parents wanted to make sure she was alive. We go to school over 400 miles away from NC. Girl at school wasn't allowed any sugar, no sweets, not even fruit. It was weird. I invited her to a party at mine, and her parents came round before the party to check our house was safe. They asked if our gate locked to keep people out. It wasn't fair on her though. Every birthday or party she'd eat tons of junk food and feel ill, and she used to crawl around the classroom pretending she was a cat. I think they broke her. My first boyfriend in high school practically lived at our house because my mother refused to let me go to his. He was over every day after school and most weekends. Finally I convinced her to let me drive myself to his house. At this point, I had met his dad twice and his dad thought he did something to offend me / scare me off because I never came to visit them. I really wanted to go hang out with him and his dad. So I drove myself to his house with the condition that I call my mother immediately upon arrival from their phone. Google Maps said it should take 8 minutes to get there. 8 minutes and 45 seconds later, I get an enraged phone call from my mom. I was just walking in the door and I hadn't called her yet. She made me immediately return home and grounded me from my cell phone for a month. I was starting a general chemistry lab in college and a parent emailed me after the first lab report with an annotated copy of the graded assignment which I gave a B+. Little Johnny had never gotten a B in a class before, and I was just being unfair since it was his first semester in college. Long story short, she threatened to go to the prof. I said go ahead, and they did. The professor was awesome. When kids bitch about their grades, he offers them a A grade and then goes over the report with a fine-toothed comb. The B+ got changed to a C. One time, when I was about 6, I was playing on a playground. Anyway, I went down this tube slide thing. It was totally covered, and this little girl walked in front of it. Well, surprise surprise, I hit her. Her mother got super mad at me and told me that I should pay more attention in the future. Bitch, I was honest lied. I had a friend growing up whose mom refused to send out a Christmas card with her and her brother's photos on it. The mom was convinced at the end of the season, once people threw away the cards, the garbage man or anyone rifling through the trash would see her amazing beautiful children, find the address on the discarded envelope, and come kidnap the kids from their home. She did many other bizarre things, but that one always stuck out to me. I once dated a girl with absolutely insane parents. Throughout middle and high school, they refused to let her go out to anything but school and choir trips. She had to argue and bargain with them for months just to be able to go to senior prom. They wouldn't let her go to junior prom. They also refused to let her get a driver's license or a car to limit her mobility. Even to this day they refuse to let her go out. She, a 20-year-old woman, has to get permission from her super restrictive mom and dad to go out for coffee at the cafe downstairs. The worst part of all of this is that she can't move out, as they have hold of her passport, and where she lives, it's more or less impossible to get anything done without it. On my friend's 13th birthday, his big brother was taking us paintballing. We said bye to his mom. She was, in full disclosure, a severe paranoid schizophrenic who liked to go off her meds. Anywho, we left the house and headed to paintball. At a random gas station a good half hour away, we stopped for snacks. When the older brother goes inside, the mom pulls up to a screeching halt next to us, rolls down the window and starts yelling at us to make sure the older brother spends all the money on paintball, rocking the crazy eyes the whole time. She leaves by rolling around to the back of the gas station and idling there. When the older brother got back, we told him what was going on. He told us to buckle up. Sure enough, we pulled out of the gas station, and she starts to try tailing us. I say try, because next thing I know we are on the freeway doing at least 100 dodging from lane to lane till we found a quick off ramp that took us under a bridge, where we hid for a few minimums to make sure we had lost her. The older brother refused to let her ruin my friend's 13th birthday. He was a good dude. I once went to bed with a very beautiful girl who happened to be homeschooled as a child until she was 13, before she went to public school. It happened 3 separate occasions that we were in the middle of fooling around, and then she would just hit a wall and stop moving forward, and so I would stop. She explained the attitudes that she grew up with about sex, and she would just clamp up and be on the brink of tears, and I would just be telling her it was fine and not to be embarrassed. It just blew my mind that at 24 this beautiful, young, well-traveled, educated woman still couldn't be physically intimate with someone past a certain point because of some mental block her parents had instilled in her. Shit's weird. Parents need to stop teaching their daughters dumb shit about sex. If not for the sake of their self-confidence issues, then at least to stop cockblocking me. My first roommate in college was extremely coddled by his mother, or at least I thought so. His home was about an hour away from campus, and she came up every day to get his laundry and make his bed, clean his side of the room. They were both neat freaks, and I wasn't a slob by any means, but I wasn't quite as neat as either of them would have liked. What ended up happening is I would come back from class and find her making my bed, organizing my desk, and picking up my dirty clothes. Didn't really appreciate that, but I didn't want to make waves, so I just kept my mouth shut. Finally it got really weird when I came back to the room after a class had gotten cancelled, and they were both in the same twin bed. He was sleeping, and she was stroking his hair/face and singing him a lullaby. My wife's mother. Too many acts of lunacy to mention, but the one that sticks out was when we went to their house for a family barbecue. We were in our mid-20s. Mom decides to start a fight over my presence, as I wasn't family and thus should not be attending. Wife says if he's not welcome, we are leaving. Mom says, no you're not. You're grounded. Wife just gives her this tilt your head sideways look and says, we are going back to our house. I work security at a college, so I've seen my fair share. This wasn't so much overprotective as it was babying. I once had a mother call our office. The exchange went as follows. Mother, hello, can you please go tell my son's professor that he won't be in class today? He doesn't feel well. Me, where is your son? Mother, oh he's there, on campus, in the dorms. Me, ma'am I don't know who your son's professor is, and even if I did, it's his responsibility to get in touch with them, not mine or yours. Mother, oh I know, but he called me and asked me to call him out of class. Me, he's in college now. He's 18. He can do this on his own. He doesn't even need to call, he can email his professor. Laughing, you're so right. I know someone who just moved into her college dorm a couple weeks ago. This girl has never had a house key as her mom wouldn't allow it. If she wanted in the house, mom better be there. Her parents also have all of her social media passwords, and her mom openly states she used to go read the chat conversations. Not as bad as others. However, the girl has already been home one weekend and is set to come back in a few weeks. We real wondering how she'll rebel once she's under the college experience. This girl's brother, who is in middle school / maybe just started high school, is worse. He is so coddled that he freaked out when he was left in a waiting room at a doctor's office alone while his uncle went back for his appointment. The kid could not be left alone. For the record, neither kid is special needs. Wife grew up in a quiverful family. She was only allowed to wear ankle-length skirts, no movies or any time, only parental approved books, Pilgrim's Progress, the Bible, theology books, no music except for classical and hymns. In order to date her, I had to court her. That involved never being alone, her parents inviting themselves to our anniversary dinners, siblings repeating every word that we said back to her parents. I gave her a goodbye hug, and her mother yelled at her, calling her a whore and a loose woman. When she finally gave up and ran away, they chased her to her car screaming and tried to block her in the driveway with a tractor. I got one. My sister once told me about this one time when she was at a beach house with her friends. They were all over 20 years old and they were planning to stay there for the weekend. Obviously, they were going to stay up all night watching movies when midnight strikes. This one girl's phone starts to ring and it was her mother telling her to go to sleep. Worst part? She silently stood up and went to bed. She is over 20 years old. I don't know about the worst, since my parents were pretty good about other stuff, but anything to do with sex was a major no-go. I remember them trying to give a talk to my oldest sister, who was 8 or 9 at the time, making me 4 or 5. We got to the part where the guy puts the thing he pees out of into a hole I was not aware existed, and I ran away screaming. That subject was never revisited. They pulled me out of middle school sex ed because it was too early and my high school taught abstinence. I thought that old porn, not just child pornography, was illegal until college. When I was in college I was dating a girl and had been for some time. My dad lived in another state and we had made plans to go visit him so she could meet him for the first time. The day we were supposed to leave, like 2 hours before we left town, she got her grades from her college. They weren't as good as her parents wanted, so they grounded her. I went to her house to try to reason with her mom. I should have bailed at that red flag, but I was in love, and her mom was so condescending. I explained how my dad and stepmom had made arrangements for her to be there, and how excited they were to meet her. She wouldn't hear it. I made the mistake of saying I understand that you're upset, but deciding this right before the trip just seems childish. I was banned from their house. We were actually together for a long time after that, but I know they are still really overprotective, and she's really dependent on them. She's 31, and the last time I talked to her, a few months back, she still lived with them. My dad would lock me in the house like it's a prison. He never let me play outside with the other kids. The only time I go outside is when I went to school, and even then he wouldn't let me participate in extracurricular activities. He would always hang around the school. I was such a depressed, lonely child. I had a 9:30 p.m. curfew until I was 19. The only friend I had was my dog. I loved that dog so much, but my dad killed him in a drunken and coke-fueled rage. He curb stomped the dog to death, then hid the body somewhere in the woods where no one would find it. He killed the dog because he said the dog was being violent and aggressive, because it's in the nature of all pit bulls. That's bullshit. My dog was the sweetest, most loving dog ever. He loves everyone and everything. I think he did it because he knew that dog made me happy. On a positive note, my father is currently in prison for 35 years for statutory rape, possession of cocaine, domestic assault, and child abuse. My mom was too afraid to say or do anything. She got so traumatized and depressed she stopped caring about anything, including her son. She is still emotionally scarred just like me, but we are slowly but surely recovering.